Hello, my friends, relative esteemed colleagues. I was asked to explain the difference between alcohol-damaged fatty liver and the fatty liver of people who do not consume alcohol. Well, the question is basically irrelevant in a way how it is asked, because there is a difference between destroyed liver through alcohol, and it's a completely different situation when liver contains fat more than it should, and it changes color. We are told many times that when we consume alcohol, that liver is processing it the same as it processes fructose, meaning sugar. But again, we are not being told that it is exactly the same. What happens when it is processing glucose, but actually the similarity between what happens when liver is processing fructose and glucose, there is no change. It's exactly the same process. But when it's processing sugar from alcohol, well, it is different, because alcohol is a toxic substance, especially neurotoxic, but it is toxic to every cell of our body. When it is deemed to be neurotoxic, it means that it penetrates the blood-brain barrier, and it will affect the cells of the brain as well. And when we are talking about other sugar, not alcohol, but sugar, which is either glucose or fructose that we are now discussing, then we are not actually damaging any cell, because our body regularly uses glucose and it has no use for fructose. So basically it doesn't affect it. It just does not know what to do with it. So liver will, since it has the capability, it is going to convert fructose into a fatty acids, and the side product is uric acid. So it will acidify the body by doing so. Exactly the same thing is going to happen when it is processing glucose. Whatever glucose we do not turn into energy when it becomes available, then the liver is going to have to convert into fat, and side product is uric acid. And when it's a question about alcohol, well, alcohol does have some sugar, so it is going to, and it is going to also trigger production of fatty acids, but alcohol is toxic, so it closes down the cells. And the more often we have alcohol, the longer and more often the cells are going to be closed for absorption, because simply they will defend themselves from alcohol. And this is going to affect every cell in the body. This is why you see that alcoholics are very often very skinny, and they are skinny because they do not want to eat, they just want to drink, and they become extremely dehydrated on a cellular level and on an extracellular level as well, because they simply don't want to drink nothing but alcohol. And body needs to eliminate it. And it is going to need plasma to eliminate it, what it doesn't process. And here is the problem. It causes diuretic effect. So when we consume alcohol, we don't produce that much fat, but it is severe dehydration of the body. And you dehydrate liver as well, because liver is processing the alcohol, processing the sugar, and is being affected by alcohol. So it becomes dry and it goes into cirrhosis. Cirrhosis is when the collagen fiber in the protein fiber collagen within the liver are so dehydrated that they start showing their white structure, the white protein structure without water. I explained that when you have egg white and you heat it up at one point, when it reaches over 55 degrees Celsius, the protein of egg white coagulates, releases water, and when protein releases water, it shows as a white fiber. And this is cirrhosis in the liver. So alcohol destroys the liver by dehydrating. Is the liver going to be fatty? Well, it may have some fatty patches in it, but why does liver become fatty? Well, if we eat sugars, carbohydrates, I don't talk about fructose here, because sugars in general, have limited absorbability into the body. So no matter how much carbohydrates you eat or how much fructose you eat, because of low GLUT levels that transport sugar through the cellular structure, we cannot absorb much sugar from intestines into the blood. This is why many people, or some people, can eat huge amount of pasta and bread and they're skinny. On the other side, some people can have just a little bit of bread and they are gaining weight and their sugar is jumping. So it is all about how much GLUT is available to absorb and bring this substance, the sugar, from intestines through cellular structure into the blood. And fructose, since body cannot use it, has no use for it, body is not going to be increasing GLUT production if there is more fructose available to bring it in, because it does not need it. It does not know what to do with it. But whatever GLUT is there available will bring the fructose in. So it all depends on the level of GLUT. Now, when does level of GLUT increase? When we eat starches, because by starches I mean digestible carbohydrate that was stripped of cellulose, and which happens while we are processing it or if we are heating it. And why is that so? Because we always have in the blood certain level of glucose, because our cells will need it when they create amino acids. They need the carboxyl group. So they will absorb some of the glucose whenever they need to make proteins. But since the amount of glucose that will be used is very low, cells will just send out glut protein to trap the sugar and to bring it in. So there is no insulin in play here. And cell by itself is not going to be absorbing glucose unless there is a transporter. Everything changes when blood level of sugar increase over the, I call it radar, over the designed point, because when more sugar appears, the insulin switch is triggered. Insulin is spilled into the blood to force the cells to absorb the sugar. And this is done when we are in a stress situation under influence of stress hormone. So there is a dual purpose of glucose in the blood. One is for production of proteins, and the other one is for energy, but only as a booster in life-threatening situation when we are under stress. Body controls how much sugar is there because it is produced by demand, and it is produced by liver converting fat into sugar. And inside of our cells, only muscle cells and brain cells can do this job and do it to create glycogen. They stay inside of the cell, not to push it into the blood, but for personal use for stress situations. It is controlled process, but whatever we absorb through digestion, this is not a controlled process. Why not? Well, there is a limited amount of glut to take it in, so glut controls how much of sugars we are going to absorb. But if we eat dietary glucose, if we eat starches, they are liberated from cellulose. Then the body says, oh, I can use this stuff. I want it. So glut will take it in. And then if this happens often, then body starts producing more glut to accommodate the absorption. So if you are a plant eater, vegan or vegetarian, doesn't matter, and if you eat only 3 meals a day, or better, 2 or 1 meal a day, you will still have to stay in kind of a ketogenic state, because your cells will be regularly supplied by fat. But the occasional glucose that comes in will be absorbed, but very moderately, because you don't have enough transporter. So there is not much change being done. This is why those who eat only once or twice a day and they're eating vegetables, they are skinny, because there's not enough nutrition. They are still keeping more or less in ketogenic state, because the amount of sugar that is coming in is staying below radar. It doesn't shoot above to trigger insulin. And the cells do not absorb it, so they are forced to stay in ketogenic state to provide energy through fat, through triglycerides. Now, more often we consume these dietary carbohydrates, the starches, the more often glut has to be sent, and the body starts producing more and more of it to supply. So if you are snacking on chocolates, if you are snacking on bread, if you are snacking on cookies in between meals, you are stimulating constant production of GLUT because body says, oh, I can use it, pow, pow, pow. And all of a sudden, you start absorbing way more than the body was designed to absorb. And you start shooting higher. The content of blood sugar is rising, going above the radar, above the calibration, hitting the insulin switch, and bingo, you are going out of ketosis because now you are forcing the cells to absorb the sugar from the blood. And if there is not enough of it there, or your activity is such, all of a sudden you are going into hypoglycemic state. There is no hypoglycemic state when you are in ketosis. It is very rare. It is when you are under high stress for a long time, so you use all the glycogen. Long time means more than 20 minutes of a stress. You can go there, you just collapse. But this is very rare. So, as more GLUT you produce, the more sugar you start absorbing. And you absorb the same. You absorb glucose, then you absorb fructose. And since body cannot use the fructose, immediately it goes into liver to process into fat. And the glucose will be absorbed into the cells to certain capacity. So if you eat small amount of rice, like Japanese or Chinese eat, like one fistful, then no big deal, but the cells will absorb it. But what do? We pack the plate. So 1/3 or 1/4 of this, sometime less, body can absorb, the cells can absorb, but the rest, a huge amount, is staying in the blood. And the body will start urinating it out because it has to get rid of it. And it will be processing it. So first goes, okay, let's turn it into fat because we can use it. But then if there's too much that even the production cannot handle it, you start urinating it because the sugar level is not dropping. So, wow, you eliminate it as long as you have enough blood plasma. And this makes us thirsty. So we start drinking more. And, we don't drink plasma, we drink water, which is low on minerals. So we are actually demineralizing and lowering its dehydratingness. But whatever fat is produced in the liver then releases, converts into triglycerides, and releases it in a bloodstream as a food to the cells. But since cells, in this case, do not need it because they just were fed by sugar, then this fat is packed in storages, adipose tissue. And this is what is making us fat. But when we are snacking in between meals or eat more than 3 meals a day, the liver does not have time to release all this fat that is producing into the blood to pack it into deposits. And liver itself is starting getting fatty because it is accumulating the fat it is producing. It cannot release it fast enough. And this is how we get into fatty liver. So, fatty liver doesn't mean necessarily a sick state. It is just fat state. But fatty and dehydrated liver, that's a different situation. eventually it happens on carbohydrates as well, because again, we are not taking enough salt. We are flushing the minerals as we are flushing the sugar out, urinating it. So processing a lot of water and always losing minerals. And we are dehydrating ourselves. And since liver is involved here a lot because it's producing and converting, well, liver will be affected more than other organs. And you are going to also have problem with cirrhotic liver even if you are not drinking alcohol. But it is usually those are very fat people that always munch constantly and big burden on the liver. So the cirrhosis of the liver, including the fatty liver, will occur very similar to overuse of alcohol. But it will take much longer. Alcohol does much quicker job at it. So not every fatty liver is toxic. Dehydrated and fatty liver is toxic because it is dehydrated. And if it's severely dehydrated, it starts showing you fibers of protein, and we call it cirrhosis. So you go into cirrhotic liver. Can a liver be saved? Yes, it can. Number one, you have to stop eating carbohydrates, stop eating stupid plants, focus on, well, stupid plants are actually not stupid. We are stupid to eat them. Start eating correctly. Start eat animal products. And the most important thing, start utilizing salt. I hear it now from more and more exploits that salts are inorganic minerals and body has no use for it. The body has different types of salts. It's a moronic thinking, which is very common because we like to fit. And if somebody says some nonsense and the someone that says it is ordained with high titles, people trust it. So they don't want to sound stupid. They want to start sounding educated. So they repeat the same nonsense. Salt is salt. It is combination of positive and negative element, anion and cation. And all anions and cations, if you look at it, are not organic. But so is water. And we still need it. We still use it. Because there's no such a thing of organic and inorganic. Everything is just frequency and our perception or our the way how we view it. So we are electronic robots working on electromagnetic energy. And then yet we see ourselves as a biological things. And then you have a mechanical robot that we can create and work similar as we do, but we look, this is mechanical and we are biological. Now we are same mechanical stupid thing, but in a disguise. It's like that robot putting nice plastic coating on it, the artificial masking. Okay? There's no organic and inorganic. That's nonsense. If you look at some of the movies from the schematics, when they use vibration and put the sand and vibrating it, in certain frequencies, it actually looks like a worm moving. It creates visual thing that we can associate as a living organism. This is what we are. But frequencies are way more complex. But that's what we are made of. And even particles, you need particles to see. But we are created in quantum field. And we exist in quantum field as a pure energy. So how do we end up to be like these biological animals that move around and have certain characteristics when we are just energy? Well, because to make us look like this, the light wave has to be converted into dots. And then according to a frequency of a dot, it gives a color to create the visual. So again, it's frequency. So stop repeating the nonsense of organic or inorganic salts. There is no such a thing. And as far as liver disease goes, if you have, doesn't matter, cirrhotic liver, or if you have just fatty liver, or fatty and cirrhotic liver, if you stop poisoning yourself and stop eating carbohydrates, and again, people said, well, you said no carbohydrates, but you said you can eat banana. Yeah, you can eat potato too, but don't cook it. Because then carbohydrate is inside of the cell, which has a membrane of cellulose, and it cannot affect you. You cannot digest it, so it just goes through you and comes out. Not digested. You don't absorb anything. So, again, before you ask questions, read my articles or watch more of my videos to learn more. Because everything we are told through schools is lie. Everything. Every single thing is a lie. From physics, chemistry, history, especially medical field. Because they're using it to depopulate. Okay, my friends, so if you have problem with liver, if your liver is fatty, or necrotic, or both, cirrhotic, or both, well, don't eat plants, hydrate with plasma, so you can rehydrate your body on extracellular and intracellular level, and you will heal. The cirrhotic part will have to be destroyed, but when you eat correctly, you start producing the thing again. I'm not allowed to say on YouTube. This is the lower thing which you start producing, which is a marker that marks which cell has to be destroyed because it is low electromagnetic, low magnetic field, a low magnetic potential. So it sticks itself there, and macrophage, your white blood cell, understands, okay, this is a garbage, and it starts ripping it apart. So it will rip apart the cirrhotic part of the liver, and it will regrow in a health tissue. We can heal. We are designed to heal. But we have to understand that we cannot poison our body constantly and keep it dehydrated and expecting it to heal. Cannot do it. So, follow Cell-Healer's protocol and we have nothing to worry about. But be aware, because as soon as you start increasing blood plasma, your body is going to be triggered into detox. And detox doesn't mean, okay, every day I feel better, because yes, at the beginning you are detoxifying only blood. You are cleansing the blood. You feel better every day. But then, as the blood level rises, the information comes to the cells. Well, now you can start releasing toxins because there is enough plasma to eliminate from the blood. And bingo! Your blood is getting more toxic than ever because your cells start releasing toxins. Their garbage, surplus, whatever they want to get rid of. And then you start eliminating it. And you will be in need of more plasma. But this is going to be creating symptoms of toxic blood, symptoms of detox, which I'll mention, flu basic. So that's how the body works. Actually, very simple when you look at it. Yeah, it's a complex things that happen, energetic things in the body, but how to take care of body is very simple. Simple maintenance. Eat correctly and hydrate correctly, and body will take care of itself. Thank you for listening, and I guess this resonates with you. God helps us all, and I love you. Namaste.